In an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone, the Great Depression, passed the, anyone, the tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone, raised or lowered, raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression.
Yeah. We got man like Max Romeo, just like to say, it's a pleasure for Big 12 to play for a man like this. Yeah, enough love and respect. Yeah, man. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Na, 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 na. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Na, 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 na. One step forward, two step backward. Babylon, Babylon. One step forward, two step backward. Babylon, Babylon. It was St. Thomas in the east. Yes.
They give all the capital the opportunity that they were looking for to restructure their workforce, i.e. to sack everybody. So we're going to have millions and millions of people thrown into unemployment, and it was a vat just waiting to be filled with redundant humanity. And yeah, I think it's going to force matters to a head when it starts to hit people who traditionally have been okay and financially stable. When that starts to break down, then it's really going to pressurize things. You know, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how we propose to change things. It doesn't seem to be that a conventional approach has worked or ever worked. I'm more interested in your idea of mass psychedelicization. I mean, that could affect a fundamental change in the way that we interact and how we allocate our resources and how we live. And that would be interesting, but as yet no one's come up with a sensible idea of how to do it. Operation Julie didn't work, did it? You know, apparently LSD doesn't survive in water. The age-old bogeyman story about Nazi hippies introducing
Why'd you have to go away? Don't you know I miss you? And I need your love. Whoa, for benefit. Love don't live here anymore. No. Just a vacancy. Love don't live here anymore.
Children. The world is run by cunts, and we've let them get away with it for far too long. Any revolution that's going to happen, we can't wait on somebody else maybe starting a revolution. It starts within you, and it starts within me. So find something that you're really fucking angry about, and tell the world, whether it's going on social media, putting stickers up in your hometown, graffitiing your discontent, maybe even smashing a Costa coffee. Because money's power. And that's a good start. Think about where your money goes, guys. Because the longer that we stay silent and the longer that we stay complicit and buy this shit that we pretend's good for us, then the worse it's gonna get. It starts within you. Do it.
Britain is not complicit in the genocide in Gaza, it's a participant and has been from the beginning. And one of the main elements of that has been the daily spy flights that were sent from RAF Akrotiri on Cyprus, the UK base there, over Gaza for 5 hours a day for over a year, starting in December 2023. Horrifically, they've just started again this week. Keir Starmer sent a spy plane yesterday, and there's another one today, I think, already in the sky. And these are planes that can collect intelligence from high in the sky, but their planes are also, one of the capabilities of the plane is target acquisition for military strikes. So if you are providing intelligence to the genocidal power that it has a prime minister and a former defense minister indicted by the ICC, you are participating by law. So what we need to see is British ministers, I believe, indicted by the ICC as well. And we need to see Britain referred to the ICJ and
Ah, sunshine. The bees are buzzing, the birds are singing, and the mowers are out mowing. Tackle those guys.
Bonjour. Bonjour. It's a beautiful morning. We've got some technical madness, but we will overcome it in due course. Right. Well. Morning to you, Dave Swift. I seem to be a bit bigger than usual. It's a full house. I don't know what's going on with X. I'll fix it in a minute. Morning, everyone. Morning to you, my capella. Fucking amazing work. That's the fantastic work of Norrie Harmon, which is indeed not. I like what Norrie does because he kind of ends all these boring people whining about AI all the time. There's a bunch of people. The people who moan about AI the most are the least talented people I've ever seen in my life. They're probably the people most threatened by AI as well. It's kind of a testament to how shit their own art is, I think. This is what I'm becoming, this is the opinion that I'm developing. So, morning to the discontented. Good morning to you. Who is on X? Is there anybody on X? I noticed that morning Rocky Vibrations, Root Sound, Niall Fraser, live for Hong Kong, Loving the Greyhounds, used to live right next to Powder Hall. Is it still going? No. But it takes me back. I have a very early memory. It's an early memory. It wasn't around long, even when I was a kid. It was on the way. Morning, Richard Flett. Morning to you. We're truly international. We've got from Canada to Hong Kong. Morning, Matty Ross. I'm a bit saddened that the weird thing with X, it just says scheduled. It says it's live, but perhaps Elon's what I'll do is I'll just create a live broadcast now with it. So just bear with me. 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll try it this way. Start immediately. Chat, everyone. Create broadcast. Has it done it? Broadcast. Broadcast created. Post. Live now. Right, I think that should be it. Let's have a look. It says it's live now. I didn't ken why it never worked. Some things didn't work. Some things just didn't work. 3 AM here. Go on yourself, Richard. Respect to yourself, bro. I've got a text. I've just got a text message. It just says, "Burn this cunt in hell." I am on X. I can't keep up with you all.
This is a jaunty remix by Leoski. It's an older mix, an older live mix. Is it the same one? Yes. No, it's not. This is the mix. I knew something wasn't right. I knew something wasn't right.
Hey Tads, want to listen to your music in peace?
I do want to listen. I'm just being plagued by technology today. Right. Okay. I've got to wait while an advert plays. I thought, see, this is what always happens, right? I always think when I'm on top of things, I'm like, right, I'm nice and organised. Boom, boom, boom. It's just the way it is. What I need is a glamorous assistant. So, if anybody would like to submit their CV for the role, right, here we go. That's the mix that I was looking for. That was the one I was in the mood for. Right, okay. There's a lot to get through today. So let's start off by trying to get through it. And okay, where are we? Right. Who's on X? Is anyone even there? Didn't be Shy Burns getting out? Niall Fraser, silly question. Edinburgh at Dundee, which is the most Barry? We need to start a poll. Addy Kenny. It's all Scotland, eh? I wouldn't like to alienate. Obviously, we're broadcasting from the capital, so one would have to say. But which is the most Barry? Well, Barry's a bit of a capital term actually, so I couldn't possibly say. I'll leave that to the rest of the viewers. Right. Well, what's been happening, if anything? We've still got a genocide. Some of us are slightly superior. Much truth, Miguel. Much truth. What's been your favourite part of the genocide so far? Yeah? Anybody got any favourites? We've got a new one. Apparently saying Free Palestine is the same as saying Heil Hitler. So Netanyahu, who is obviously a grand psychopath of the days, of the times, who our leaders are happy to pander to and treat as some kind of dignitary, has now declared that saying Free Palestine is akin to saying Heil Hitler. This is the level of insanity. This is the level of insanity that we've reached. So, what can we do? What can we do about this? Well, we've only got a pretty small audience on what the X, it has to be said, comparatively. But great things start from small places. Saying Free Palestine is like pulling a trigger, yeah, if only. I've never been one to wish cessation of auto-respiratory upon an individual more than Netanyahu, to be honest. The personification of evil, a psychotic madman. But what does it say about us? What does it say about us as a culture and a society? And also, what's what's worse is the apologists. For those of you who follow me on X, you'll be aware that I'm always kind of caught in these kind of battles over. We'll come to it in a minute actually, because I want to look at an article that David Jameson wrote. Zambo TV. We'll need to make a track by Bob and the Bobettes, won't we? Maybe get Max to rustle up something. Well, I'll be the judge of that, Kit Kats. Right. I'm going to a quick commercial break to one of my favourite people. Another man who has left this fair land for Canada, but he's been making some great videos. I've played them all so far, and I've got another one for you just now. So I'll be back in just a moment.
What is psychology? It's a word that's come to mean the scientific study of the mind and its functions. And I don't know about you, but I find that language to be so mechanistic and cold and inhuman. The idea of functionality feels so machine-like to me. And that's not to say that our mind doesn't have functionality, because of course it does. And in many ways we need to study it so that when it isn't performing its basic functions, we can get it fixed. But that definition, the scientific study of the mind and its functions, it leaves out so much. And what it leaves out, we put over there and we say, okay, that's spirituality, that's philosophy, that's mythology. But what if I told you that the word psychology literally means the study of soul? Like, that's what the word means. Psyche is a Greek word that means soul. The Latin version is anima, and ology comes from logia and logos and means the study of a subject. So psychology literally means the study of soul. And when I first learned this and thought about the implications of what it meant, it kind of blew my mind, no pun intended. And you might very well say, okay Liam, that's all very interesting, but words change their meanings all the time. Like, why does any of this matter? And I think I'd say, well, if we were just talking about a random word, then sure, it doesn't matter. But we're not. We have a lot of problems with our psychology right now. And when we're literally misunderstanding and misinterpreting the word itself, I can't help but think that's a massive, glaringly obvious clue as to where the problem might be.
Capitalism is an interesting problem, more easily discussed now that communism is out of the picture. Capitalism is as anti-human a philosophy as you can possibly conceive, because at this very moment we should be consuming less, manufacturing less, selling less, transporting less. And what's the battle cry? Free trade everywhere. What does free trade mean? It means my right to come to your country and sell the most outlandish junk you've ever seen, and you will have no right to turn it away, because in the name of free trade, crapola has to go everywhere. It's really, see, they try to tell you that capitalism and democracy are not at variance. Actually, the whole Marxist-Leninist socialist thing was a side dish. The real life and death struggle is between capitalism and democracy. Democracy says everybody has an innate worth that must be honored. Capitalism says those who die with the most toys win. You cannot reconcile these two things. And nobody wants to talk about this. We're still having the party over the fall of communism. But, you know, you go to the Soviet Union or the former areas of the Soviet Union and you see that what it was a deep freeze for traditional culture. In Kyrgyzia and Turkmenistan, people are basically camel husbandry is what's going on. Now, with communism on the rocks, McDonald's will be there in 5 years, and Kmart will be following close behind. So I think we're coming to a great crisis of fundamental, our relation to our own fundamental institutions.
Right, Liam Barty, I need to drop. I'll drop the link. I'll drop the link in the whatever you call it, the description. Link in the description, y'all. I can't play the audio out of this just now, but I might. A Conservative leader starts a. What's this? Who's this twat? He's a grifter. Is this somebody talking about? He did the majority of himself. Clearly somebody that's never had any concept of what running in an electoral campaign's like. You always get these teapots, like, you know, 45 people. This is all just Wings Over Scotland, though. They're all, I reckon all these people are the guy's sock accounts, like, you know. So basically, see this guy here, right? I mean, I didn't like him because he's a. This is what you get. This is what you get on What the X. The parochial conflicts between me and the weirdos that populate X, as if I'm not a weirdo, eh? As if I'm exempt from the weirdo category. We're all a bit weird. Using a banana is less foolish than holding a clip-on mic. I thought his banana mic was good. I liked that. He's a clever guy, Liam, man. He's a brilliant artist as well. So I'll get his deets. I'll get his deets in the descriptions. So what happened was this annoys me. This stuff annoys me. I don't know if it annoys you. First of all, this guy annoys me because he's a total intellectual, like, redundant. He's a complete and utter moron. He's like an unashamed Zionist that cheers on Israel's behaviour. So he's kind of one of those vulgar. But this is the whole thing. This is kind of what the landscape is. You know, it's like those that kind of shamelessly support Israel. I think it says a lot about the type of personality that they are. But I don't like Patrick Harvey. I think Patrick Harvey is an irksome fellow, to say the least. You know, I don't think he's a particularly inspiring or interesting character, and you know, eccentric to some extent and delusional about what's important politically. The Green Party are, you know, as many would refer to them as just Tories with bikes. You know, that's what the Green Party are. A horrendous political party, really, you know, and they get to hide under that sort of deceptive kind of thing of like, oh, we're all environmental in that. They're not really. They're just ruthless neoliberal opportunists, like every political bods. But what I do object to, I genuinely don't like this kind of thing, is people taking pictures of folk on social media. Or taking pictures of people in public when they're just going about their business and then uploading them to social media. And this guy, Malcolm Clark, he's a right moral crusader. He likes to think he's on the right side morally about everything. He's one of these very pompous, self-righteous type of people. He's a terrible writer as well. He gets articles published here and there, you know what I mean? And he's one of the worst writers imaginable. He's an embarrassingly bad writer. Terrible writer. But this picture that he's put up of Harvey, and you can see Harvey, you know, Harvey's like, what, you know, whatever you think about Harvey's like, what the fuck are you doing taking my photo? I'm just on the fucking train. And I'm totally with Mr. Harvey on this one. I don't care how much of a twat Harvey is. He doesn't need to be having his picture taken by some freak, you know. And I think it's very telling as well, because these people they're always making a big fuss. This guy Malcolm Clark, you know, all they talk about all the time is trans stuff, you know, trans, you know. Pro-Israel, pro-baby killing, anti-trans, like what's with this? What's with the correlation between these people? Anyway, poor show for doing something like that. I think it's a really horrible thing to do in our current age. It's almost like, you know, there was once we started to have these technologies at our disposal, I think we sort of go through cultural changes. You know, it's like there's a period of time where, oh look, you can take a picture. You know, because if you think about it, a lot of great photography, some of the best photography, right, is street photography, or it's just, you know, capturing people when they're unaware or whatever. There's nothing artistic about taking a picture of somebody on a train who's just going somewhere. It says an awful lot about you as an individual. Arpignon says the Wings audience. Yeah, it's very much the Wings audience. The Wings thing is a kind of thing, isn't it? It's been an ongoing theme. We'll maybe try and come to it in a minute. We'll come to it because he's kind of obsessed. It's quite funny. I'd noticed that he was taking screenshots rather than alerting me to his posts. He was taking pictures of what I'd said so that he could get his wee clique, his wee gaggle of freaks to all like kind of like, you know, get excited about something that had been said. But he's a particularly peculiar individual. There's no two ways about that, like, you know. Anyway, the whole thing kicked off because I woke up the other morning there and I saw something about Ash Reagan, who is an Alba party. Well, for the time being, she's an Alba party MSP. She defected from the SNP at some point. And where is it? It's like where did I see this? Was it this here? Oh wait, this was Bookish Cat's Eye. I quite like Bookish Cat's Eye. If you're watching, you kind of like it. You kind of alright in that, eh? Because but it's clever in that, but always just the wee chide, eh? But it's one of those ones. What time was that? Ashamedly, I think I was still in my scratcher, which was just an unusual thing for me to be at that time in the morning. But I said this, I said Ash Reagan is a craven and pathetic opportunist, a tedious, aspirant political class climber. The manufactured outrage over Adina's age-old sauna practices and tub-thumping moralism on prostitution is just a self-produced pantomime to deflect from her zero politics. The flapping outrage from our postage stamp media fluffers is just as embarrassing. All of these people are bourgeois scum who don't have a grain of class politics between them or the slightest interest in addressing poverty and inequality. And inevitably, what happens on X or Twitter or whatever it is things become purposely manipulated, misconstrued or whatever, you know, and before you know it. So the Wings guy basically, what he did was he said that my statement here, so what I'm basically saying here, let's just get things very clear, right? For the sake of it, right? Because like this is my show, right? So I can focus on the minutiae if I want. And this morning that's exactly what I'm going to do. Ash Reagan is somebody with no politics, right? Ash Reagan is like just the epitome of a careerist, somebody that wants to be in politics but has no position on anything, no concept of structural critique of anything. Just a sort of opportunist, attractive woman, wants to be a political climber. I think it's likely she'll probably defect from Alba because I think there's conflict between where she would maybe get pulled to politically and maybe what Kenny McCaskill's trying to do with the party. But Reagan chose to bring what's called a members' bill. A members' bill is what any member of the Scottish Parliament can bring forward, but members' bills aren't the same as like a government bill or a government policy. And members' bills never get passed. Well, they don't hardly ever get passed, right? They just get passed now and again. And this is like the 23rd of May in 2025. And next year, around about the same time next year we've got an election, right? So the chances of this bill actually, you know, like getting party approval and all the rest of it and passing is very slim. So it's very much like this is it's quite, you know, credit to her, right? It's quite a clever one because an evocative issue, right? Prostitution. But for me, what this is, it's kind of culture war thing because the arse is falling out the trans thing. The legs have gone from that, right? People are into that. But the thing that's interesting about this, choosing this particular issue, on this kind of grandstanding, right, we're taking a moral stance on prostitution. And I think what it is, it's like they want to criminalise the buying of sex as opposed to the selling of it. And the problem with that, so I think they call it the Nordic model or something. So there's a few things here. I'll try and keep myself coherent with this. So the problem is, right, that first of all, we are not Sweden or Norway, right? And this is something that contemporary bureaucrats always do. I was talking to my mate about this the other day. They go on jollies or they go to places, right, and they go to like somewhere like Copenhagen and they go, oh look, Copenhagen's got loads of bicycles. We need to have loads of bicycles. It works really well there. And then they come and try and implement it here and they just make a cunt of it. And it's just same with everything. It's basically they're completely incapable of comprehending the massive. There's a difference between these places, and that's because they're different places in different countries with different cultures, different social attitudes. All of these things have a massive impact on certain policy, right? So whether the Nordic or the Swedish model or whatever it is would be the right model or not, right, to address the issue of prostitution, that's not really the issue here, right? Because the main issue is that this bill won't actually become policy, right? So what we've actually got is basically a cultural intervention by somebody who's wanting to keep their profile as high as possible as they move into 2026. So when people were attacking me and going like, oh, you must be like, people were calling me a fucking rapist, right? That's how ridiculous this. That they're saying like, so actually we'll go into this other guy wrote an article about it or whatever, because the Wings guy goes, oh, that means that I go to saunas. I was like, I don't go to fucking saunas, but that's not the point, right? It's like basically because I had the temerity to call this out, you know, and all these self-righteous kind of like, oh, the women defenders and that, like, you know, they're all freaks. But the thing that's interesting is that if you think about it, because this bill has no chance of becoming policy, it just becomes a kind of talking point. It becomes this kind of thing. So this is what happened. It suddenly became an argument. People are going like, well, are you for this? Are you for this model or not for this model? And it's like, that's not really what the point is here. Whether I was for it or not for it has no bearing on whether or not it's going to actually become policy or not, right? So then you sort of have to ask the question and say, right, well, if there's no possibility that this is actually going to like become like policy, what's it going to do? It's going to force a discussion. It's going to force a sort of a dialogue within the Scottish Parliament over this moral issue. And this is where it's quite interesting. This is where Reagan's clever, is because what we've got is they know that the trans thing is like trans things has been an incredibly, but I think it's almost like the whole fucking world is exhausted talking about this trans stuff, right? And it's just tedious, and it's very entrenched. The camps that have become entrenched with it and all the rest of it. So this becomes another very highly emotive, you know, subject matter to start introducing. Have we got anybody false flag? Yeah, okay, we'll come to that. So, so if you think about it, right? So it's like this. This then becomes this kind of like this highly contentious issue that suddenly becomes a talking point, right? And it forces a bit of a split, right? Because do you know who's really pro sex work, right? Is younger people. Now, rightly or wrongly, this is a question of hypercapitalism and neoliberalism, basically, right? Which has completely normalised sex work, which I personally think is a bad thing. I don't think it's a good thing at all. This guy here that was, wherever he was on my comments, or some weirdo that popped up, you know, criticising my 2021 campaign, one of the first things that I said in that campaign, like the opening line of that electoral campaign, was about how, you know, if your teenage daughter thinks that OnlyFans is a sensible vocation, basically, to pursue, and you know, basically making the point that, like, this is a cultural nadir that we've reached. This is a social and societal nadir that we've arrived at when we've allowed the normalisation of the selling of sex as being kind of like, you know, something to aspire to, or the fact that there's no opportunity, so that this is something that people are increasingly finding themselves having to resort to. This is an indictment on the whole of society, the whole of hypercapitalism, the whole of neoliberalism. But the problem is that many young people who, you know, they've come accustomed to this type of culture. So by having a go at this notion of sex work and the implications of how sex work's conducted, it's actually quite a divisive issue in terms of the demographics that it's going to provoke. And I think Reagan's very calculated and clever in why she's chosen to do this at this point. Because pretty much, in my opinion, right, this is where I'm going with this, it's basically like, it's a crafty way of rekindling the trans war, right? Because all the people that are pro-trans and like, you know, that are ardently, like, you know, very much into the trans thing and that, and keen to sniff out transphobia and, you know, like all of that section of the culture, 99% of them are going to be 100% pro-sex work. So it's like kind of, you've got this kind of division, this kind of moral division, like, you know, what's going on here? Right, let's get a look at the comments. We've got a raft of comments. They do get passed, but it takes Flet says, I'd wager a huge swathe of these online anti-trans folk are just like Alan Partridge with the Ladyboys. I probably agree. I don't know that exact vibe with Partridge and the Ladyboys, but definitely a lot of them are like, you know, a lot of the. See the thing, right? See the guy like Wings and folk like that, like these kind of like completely underdeveloped freaks. I mean, that guy, you know, this guy's. I wouldn't even like to speculate where he gets his jollies. Like, this probably be far too disturbing, but it's like I've always felt, right, that there's an element of the guys that are most enraged about guys dressing up as women and being trans or whatever like that. They themselves have a very, very fixed idea of what women should be like, and that it's almost like that. Those images sort of fuck with their wank bank or something. Do you know what I mean? They can't handle it, you know. They get concerned because they got a fucking stoner when they seen Freddie Mercury jumping about with a Hoover or something. Do you know what I mean? And it's disturbed them or something, you know. But they've often got very, very, and they're incredibly critical of how women look, of how everyone looks, and you know, they're often like, you know, they're never really particularly supermodels as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I digress. Katrina says they do get passed, but it takes a whole parliament. Aye, but they rarely get passed, right? Am I not right in saying that members' bills, very few get passed? I got the times when I said, sleep well, brother. It's divisive. I'm 100% against the buying of sexual services from other humans, but I am concerned about how this is being introduced. It's opportunistic. We live in a pornified world. This is to make sure Ash is on the front pages. That's the crux of it. That is that's the be all and end of it, really. Like, you know, this is and that was kind of my point, right? It's like, who's this about? Is this about, you know, really being concerned about exploited women, or is this about you and getting your purse on the table set? Because we can find well what the answer is to this. Anyway, I managed to address this because it was like I was getting all these messages about it, and fuck, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a bit like, who's this? Who's this? Wing to wing. There you go, you're on What the X this morning. This is all this guy does, is just post about crypto and this meme that he's always posting that, like, you know what I mean? It's like, my word. Here's this guy, here's the Wings guy. I didn't follow him, but it's on the For You. What's Katrina saying? Residents of Portobello clearly don't want a controlled parking zone. But as always, Edinburgh City Council will go ahead and do what they want anyway. They're a disgrace. Listen, right, the council are the enemy of the people in Edinburgh. The council operate in basically against the citizens. And that's evident in every aspect of life in this city now. When have the council of late, over this last decade or so, done anything at all that was in the interest of the actual citizens that are from this city, or have lived in the city, or as they might be called, legacy citizens or otherwise? Never. Katrina says controlled parking zones in Portobello are about revenue. How will people access the beach? Portobello is Edinburgh's beach. I swim in the sea regularly. I get lifts from friends. This will stop people accessing the beach and the promenade and forces residents into permit holders. Essentially it's probably another stealth way of privatising public space, you know, which is a continual issue in Edina. A tragic issue, okay. Look, there's Katrina confirming the issue with private members bills. The abolishment of poindings of warrant sales was a private members bill introduced by SSP. It took 1999 to 2003 and a lot of very hard work, yeah. So it's like we know what the motivation for it is. And perhaps, you know, maybe all of these, you know, people making a noise about it could maybe just be a bit more honest about that. You know, that would be... No, that would be a bit more of a sort of honest critique, you know. I mean, the thing is, a lot of this arose from the Wings guy, you know what I mean, who's had a bee in his bonnet since I made that video exposing him for being the repugnant Zionist sort of apologist that he obviously is, you know. And he, his best way, this guy that they call him, like they're like, oh, he's like a forensic journalist and that. The only thing he could do was take the video and break it up out of context and purely kind of like put it into these other really embarrassing attempts to be funny, you know. But increasingly, I think this whole period, I think the whole issue with Gaza, I think people's tolerance really for, you know, what they're prepared to indulge is becoming quite evident. I think people are, you know, I'm not saying revolution's in the air yet, but I think people have collectively had enough, for want of a better term. Ash, the champion of independence, has managed to put independence on the back burner with the latest culture war, as long as she gets a wee press conference. Whoever you are, Danny Mick, Danny MC, I completely agree. And I think it's that thing as well, it's like, I think it's important that, you know, if it's a member of the political class, if a member of the party political class, even if they're a small party, insignificant, even more so perhaps if they're a small party, you have to look at everything that they do with cynicism. You have to look at, like, what are you doing this for? What is the motivation? What is actually occurring here? How are you addressing increasing inequality? What are you actually doing to, you know, bring about a better society? Is this just about you? Forensic journalist, yeah. I mean, it's quite embarrassing. It's clear though that a lot of the people that follow him are probably just himself, you know what I mean? There's so many anonymous accounts, or just accounts that, you know, you can't really determine who they are. A right oddball, you know. But, you know, someone that has had, you know, an impact on Scottish culture. I always said that, you know, his presence and his ability to frustrate aspects of the Scottish political class was really more an indictment on them, that, you know, some teapot in Bath in a basement wanking could disrupt the entirety of Scottish politics, you know. It kind of says an awful lot about who we are as a country. Marjorie Taylor Greene, indeed. Nice to see you, John Clifford. Let me, what have we got here? Let me just, let's have another public message on the state of Edinburgh Council. 1 second, I need to jump between windows here at the minute. It's a tough life. It's a tough life.
This is what Edinburgh Council expect people to live in. So me and my 4 children are in temp accommodation. We have been for nearly 3 years now. I am trying to get moved out of temp accommodation because I am a BRCA2 carrier, so I'm having to have my breasts and my ovaries removed, and I don't know what to do a recovery in this house because it's a hellhole. So I was just going for a shower, stepped out of the shower, and nearly went through the floor. Watch this. So this is obviously the bath where I stepped out the shower. Look at this. Nearly went through the bloody floor. I have reported God knows how many times that the floor here keeps seeping. My downstairs neighbour has made multiple complaints to the council about her house being flooded when we're in the bath or in the shower, and they keep saying they can't find a leak, and just replacing the bit of wood that's getting wet with another bit of wood, until eventually I went through it. Yeah, this is the living conditions that families with children are expected to live in Edinburgh. 3 years I've been living in it. Can't get moved because there's no houses for me. They're holding off a life-saving operation because they won't house me, and they think I'm going to have a big, major, serious operation like that and do a recovery in a house that I'm falling through the floorboards. Sort it out, Edinburgh Council, eh?
I'm back. Scottish political class is amateur as fuck. It doesn't take much. It certainly doesn't. Genuinely the worst, and it's just terrible, isn't it? I wanted to look at something that David Jameson, who I still consider to be Scotland's best journalist, had said. He had written an article. Okay, stop the war UK. A quick article from me for Stop the War UK on how mass demonstrations are effective and why. I mean, like, the council need to sort that out, right? It's totally, it's wrong, It's wrong that people's houses should be in that state. And I've seen, there's worse evidence of that. We'll get a wee thing on what the X, I think. We'll start getting more, talking about the X, right? I'm terrible at doing this, right? We need to like, subscribe, and we need to start supporting what the X with scones, i.e. dollar. You need to start supporting us. So start buying us coffees, donating. We've got a crowdfund that we're instigating that will bring into the fore a wee bit more over the coming weeks and be a bit more proactive with that, because we want to raise some loot and we want to take this to the next level. So please, if you do watch What the X, if you're a lurker, if you're one of those cats that catches up on the replay, then please, and if we can put the link in the chat so that you can actually, when you donate, it should actually do a wee thing on the screen while I'm live. But you didn't just have to do it when I'm live. You can do it anytime you want to. But yeah, we need you to like, subscribe, and share as well. If you like What the X and you like the vibe, then share it, tell people about it. There's a lot of things going to be happening over the next month or so. And it will be here. Here is where it will be. But yeah, please try to support. We are truly independent media. We've faced quite a lot of opposition, which is kind of fun. If you weren't facing opposition, you'd be doing it wrong. But there's many interesting things to do with discontent, to do with me, to do with what the X, some of which are known, some are lesser known. But yeah, I think, you know, on average we're getting between the two different platforms at the minute. We're getting about 1,000 sort of views over the space of each show. And if I look at the replay, the folk that join the replay, you know, I see a lot of names there, a lot of people. That's great. You're obviously enjoying it, but there's a lot of people there that, you know, how about you just throw us a 10 quid, 20 quid, buy us a coffee, whatever, you know. It all helps. Got to keep the lights on. There's a lot of costs involved that I've been incurring, and so I would appreciate the support in all forms if you're able to do so. And I'm one of those people, a lot of people, you'll notice I didn't go on like that, and every other person that streams, it's like, subscribe, donate, boom, boom, boom. I've never been like that, and I'll probably never be like that. So if you can help out, it's appreciated. Right, here is an article that David Jameson wrote, and I thought it was interesting, and that's why I want to look at it, because I don't think he was talking to me, but I felt like it was talking to me a wee bit, because I have been quite opinionated about this, as have others. Will it do it that way? Oh, look at this. The Laird of Camel will be getting all excited because I've been able to do this. Does this mean I have to kind of edge it the way? I'll try and edge it the way a bit. So there's been an issue, I suppose, that for those of us who have been, all conscious humans are outraged. We didn't think that we would see this, right? We didn't think that we would be exposed to such horrendous assault on humanity. And perhaps this is why, you know, when we have these kind of puerile battles online and stuff, and for example, you know, this repugnant troll shitposter idiot guy in Bath, you know, that they were having this battle with, you know. Really, it's thank you very much. Really, it's like, it's not, on some level, you know, the adult thing would be to rise above it and just ignore these people. On another level, you know, we are talking about a culture that is confused between reality and virtual reality, or the online world and all the rest of it. Activism does take place online. Does it have any impact? Well, not necessarily. An academic who I'm very fond of, who I think is a fantastic academic, is a lady called Jodie Dean. You can follow her. And she's written a kind of like the I've spoken about it before. She's written extensively on what she coined the term communicative capitalism, which is widely used. I use it. And Jodie Dean, essentially through studying the Arab Spring, established that what social media, Twitter and these type of platforms are a method of capture and distraction, which means that they capture the energy of movements but distract you with something else with the heterogeneity of social media or whatever. So ultimately their impact is debatable, negligible or debatable in terms of how impactful social media is as a campaign tool. But in the same ways, Mark Fisher believed that whilst capitalist cyberspace or social media was designed for the profit of the digital overlords, you know, that the territory could be commandeered for our own purposes, for the purposes of spreading class consciousness, essentially. So there are other arguments about it, but inevitably the issue with Gaza and many other issues tend to play out online, and that's where people tend to express their impotent rage, if that's what it is, or otherwise. So for those of us who have attended the marches, there's a sense of futility. There's a sense of like there aren't enough people on some of the marches, or these are some of the arguments that have been made over this last year or so, that the marches have been, not effective. And David Jameson's written this article. It's a good article, as you would expect from David Jameson, and he kind of counters this perspective. So I'm going to read it. We'll read it together. We'll read Jameson's article together. I wonder if I can do it like. Everything's like. I'm thinking, should I do it hot? Like, have a vote. Do you want it this way? Take him on. Can we read it this way? I'm going to be in the way. That's the thing. Right, I'm going to read it this way, okay? Right. The Gaza solidarity movement outlives the government's support for Israel. Okay. The London marches, several of which have broken the 500,000 mark, are the flagship of the whole movement and are not stopping yet. Something immense but not sufficiently recognised has taken place in the last few days. The Gaza solidarity movement has outlived the British government's policy of defence for Israel's assault on Gaza. Just before this vote-faced, the Gaza solidarity movement achieved its second largest demonstration to date. It has, therefore, scored another partial but real victory. The movement's survival to now was by no means guaranteed. It had to be won from a state and establishment that has denounced, smeared, banned, gagged, sacked, arrested and jailed. This movement did not yield to attacks by police or far-right thugs encouraged onto the street by the government. It did not fall into demoralisation after 19 months of constant action. This had to be fought for, organised, encouraged and achieved. It took enormous dedication and sacrifice, not least from the people who have been and continue to be persecuted in ways both draconian and life-changing, and also petty but vindictive and constant. This is a movement which has involved both gigantic street processions and direct action, an outpouring of literature and cultural production, consumer boycotts, campus encampments and dissident electoral candidates. A bewildering array of tactics has been unleashed in the name of stopping the killing in Gaza. It has scored victories along the way, unseating pro-war MPs, facing down protest bans and censorship, and even forcing the resignation of a Home Secretary. It has helped transform the attitude of millions towards British and Western foreign policy towards Israel, Palestine and the wider region. There are 3 qualifications that could be made to what I have said above. 2 we should take seriously and 1 we should not. First and foremost, this is a victory, not the victory. Gaza is in the grip of starvation. The threat of a radicalised Israeli state hangs over the shattered territory. Our own government is as devious as ever. Though Foreign Secretary David Lammy's condemnations mark a real shift in policy, the most significant since the onslaught began, they are still more words than deeds. The US and Western allies are angling for a controlled resolution that leaves justice undone. The movement without vindication and the Palestinians without self-determination. No one in this movement, having come so far, will be in any mood for complacency. Second, no one would claim that the movement's achievements come in a vacuum. Much is changing in the world, not least the calculations at the apex of the world system and the balance of power in the region. Clearly, British foreign policy is part of a wider shift with more than one cause. Yet this is always the case. Social movements fight against the backdrop of the permanent revolution of the world capitalist system. They must always adapt, respond and exploit moments of historical change to be of use. But a third argument we should have no more patience with. I refer to the dismissal of A to B marches as an effective tactic for the anti-war movement. By now, this idea, which persists in pockets of the activist left rather than in the wider movement or public opinion, is inexcusable in face of the evidence. As noted above, the tactical repertoire of the movement has been enormous. it is difficult to recall a movement in recent times more diverse, creative and effective in the range of initiatives it is undertaken. This sweeping has emerged organically from the wide plural movement, but it has also often been centrally driven. Look, for instance, at the Workplace Days of Action, a conscious attempt to bridge the traditional weaknesses of workplace organisation and anti-war strike activity. This is not achievable without a huge national and local protest movement. The London marches, several of which have now broken the 500,000 mark, are the flagship of the whole movement. They are a central rallying point for all those who want to voice their anger, far beyond activist circles. They keep the movement visible despite a largely hostile media environment. They help establish the movement as an unavoidable feature of national political life, no matter how much the government and career politicians would wish it simply went away. The movement has used this mass body as a launchpad for the tactical array discussed above, and as a scaffolding to establish more infrastructure, from trade unions to campuses and cultural organisations. Just consider what a disaster it would have been for the movement to cease this mass marching. It would have scattered a strong movement, leaving many of its local and national leaders to the full weight of prosecution. All those who have gone out on a limb, whether through direct action or speaking out in institutions or workplaces, would suddenly be more isolated. Any idea of a move away from mass demonstrations is absurd and dangerous. The mass movement has outgrown the gripe about A to B marches. It has synthesised broad mass participation with radical action. For those left behind by these developments, it's time to graduate from a comforting fantasy about wonder tactics that will somehow deliver a total and final victory. That's not how any movement works. We are in this for a slog yet, and there will be more serious debates and challenges to overcome. Right, so I think it's a great article. As always, Dave is a great writer, and I think he does make some very important points there. But I do have some critique of it, and the fundamental critique, certainly, in this town and others, but I do believe, fundamentally there's a predominant demographic in the movement, and that is a telling factor of our wider social and political, disarray, essentially. And that is, it is very much a liberal and middle class movement, right? Now, that's nothing wrong with that, and that it's not a criticism of the middle classes as such. It's just that it's not a broad enough movement in terms of engaging the wider culture in many respects. So, this is a problem for politics, of course, but it's something that has to be honestly looked at in terms of, this has always been the case with this movement. And the other thing about it is that perhaps there's that sense of futility that when I went on the march on Saturday and I see my mate Dave and we were walking down, and it's very it's nice and it's people, good people, all the rest of it, but it is like that thing. It's like a liberal protest group. And it felt almost kind of like there was like quasi-religious. There's almost like a quasi-religious element to, certainly in the way that they're organised in Edinburgh. everybody shouts shame about stuff like that, and it's call and response type of thing. And it's like, I'm not criticising any of this. I think what's happening is it's an affront to our humanity. And so anybody that's a conscious human being and believes in the sanctity of life is going to be motivated to be angered at what's going on. And if you can get out on the streets and you can protest about it, that's important. But there is a sense, in some ways, despite so much of what I agree with what David has written, there is almost that sense that, at what point does the movement come effective in terms of the tragedy relative to Gaza? Do we end up with literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people starving to death, whilst we're still got this kind of, trying to, gently, incrementally shift the political class to a different direction? It feels a bit like there's something else unanswered there in it for me. Maybe you lot, anybody watching, might have some thoughts about that, But I think that as much as I agree that there are significant achievements that have been noted there, it still feels like in the greater scheme of things, the Palestine, the anti-Israel action that's evident on the streets and the culture is not strong enough. Are people frightened? Are people frightened? I mean, this is the country that blew up hundreds, thousands of people with dodgy pagers. This is the country that kills randomly. This is the country that who have captured our political class and our society to the extent that we've now got kneecap that have been one of the guys has been charged for waving a Hezbollah flag or something, you know. Some rather, you know, and people are jumping on this to say, oh, this guy's like this is evidence of terrorism. Evidence of terrorism is relentlessly murdering women and children and innocent men in a civilian population to an extent beyond your worst nightmares, and starving them and having essentially a planet that's so captured by capitalism that unless there's any vested interest there, they're just going to let that occur. So this is a question about humanity, a fundamental question of humanity that we're talking about here, you know. I'll be back again in a second, I think. Class War, which I thought was great. It's a really well-made Europa as well, like, you know. And there we have the end of the SNP. Did anybody notice that they did this? Look at this. Leith Walk is now starts at the top of Broughton Street. Look at that. It's difficult for me to particularly be interested in the opinions of people who are paid to have them anyway. I'm very discerning when it comes to that. The utter bankruptcy of neoliberal party politics. But I'm certainly not going to be interested in the moral disposition of somebody who defends Zionists. An old poster for the time frequency. As far as I'm aware, Mackay has failed to mention anything about Palestine or Gaza. Look at this boozer. It's called the Vulcan. We're heading out of St Chambers.
It's got worse actually, Bob, as well. He threatened me afterwards.
And you thought to tear apart. I know some people panic the meeting because you've got other things to do, which is...
For working class people in this city, life is pretty difficult, like.
The council are the biggest f***ing mafia known to man. Edinburgh Council, they are the gangsters.
People are pushed to the margins in every sense in this city.
All you've done is attack our community for decades.
They go and get their picture taken with Angus Robertson. You're taking a picture with a Zionist.
But like Edinburgh, all the f***ing families have been displaced when they took away the old Pennywell, the old Muirhouse, the old Nidri, and then replaced them with mid-market rents. The mid-market rents weren't for the people who actually existed there beforehand.
Edinburgh, for example, is kind of like the architect neoliberal city. DMT for the masses, not for the few.
Do you live in Edinburgh?
You kind of do capital's bidding when you do that. DMT is not a drug, and Shahid Wilson makes that point. Our devices, these smartphones, they all came from military technology.
Do you worship at the altar of Jeremy Vine, Lord of the pedophiles?
Are you outraged by over-tourism and dodgy developments?
They're all psychotic, self-involved, sociopathic, narcissistic perverts.
Genocide can't be just tolerated.
They're part and parcel of a corrupt system that sanctions the murder and destruction of all things and everything. X is the world's town square. Well, here we are. Join us in the world's town square.
I don't want a local representative who's complicit with genocide, alright? Come here, don't make issues.
We're post-politics. These people do not represent society, and they certainly don't represent humanity. The neoliberal party political class are a scourge on humanity. They are an insult to our consciousness. The two most important terms in our current paradigm are capitalism and consciousness.
What are you watching? SPL, Old Firm Derby. It's a massive game. Oh nice, what was the score in the reverse fixture? 2-0 Celtic and 1-0. 2-0 and 1-0. So this is a cup match? No, league. There's only 12 teams in the SPL, so they play more games. So they play each other home and away, and then home or away. Right. Weird it's such a massive game if they play each other 3 times in the league. Oh, they'll play each other 4 times. 4? Yeah, after they've all played each other 3 times, the league splits in 2, and the top 6 and the bottom 6 play each other once more. Right, but if the team in 7th overtake the team in 6th, then they get promoted to the top half. No. Really? So how many points did 7th get last season? 48. And how many did 6th get? 42. Sure, so you can finish below a team that has 5 less points than you. Yeah? But it's only bottom of the bottom half that gets relegated. Yeah, got it. Oh, unless the team that win the league below you have a stadium too small to get promoted, then you get to stay. So Celtic play Rangers 4 times a year, and it's still a huge game. Now, they usually meet in the Cups, so often 6 times. But I guess with fewer teams, the SPL is probably a bit more competitive than English football. There's competition between the old firm clubs, but someone other than Celtic or Rangers can win it. Yeah, in theory. When was the last time that happened? 1985?
Right, look at the time. 12 minutes past. Look at this image. I mean, it's crazy that, you know, it's like, what kind of an image is that? It's insane. It's insane, you know. Replicated 10 million times over the last period, you know. Right, well, I've got quite a lot of stuff to get on with today. It's a beautiful sunny day in the capital. I hope it's nice wherever you are. It was nice. Netanyahu very quick with his new catchphrase, Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler. After the Israeli embassy staff of killings, wasn't he? Yeah, absolutely. It was. It's just outrageous, you know. It's hard to get your head round. But we have to resist, you know. We have to resist. And I was thinking about, you know, in the salons of like the 18th century, you know, when they would all meet up on the high street and that, all these folk like Boswell and that, before they were like hoarding around and catching multiple doses of syphilis. There was a kind of accepted thing, you know, in these salons that everybody had kind of, they were kind of heretics, you know, because they'd kind of, they were part of that nascent intellectual enlightenment, and they had decided that essentially that religion was up for question, and that like the idea of an omnipresent creator was up for debate, you know. And so they all kind of subscribed to the notion that, you know, religion was a busted flush, and so that kind of made it seditious and kind of like don't like quiet hush hush, you know, because they could have probably still got like, you know, burnt for blasphemy or something, you know. And I was thinking, like, what the X is kind of a similar thing in a digital salon, in that, you know, if you're participating with what the X, then one hopes that you would be of the disposition that McKenna, well done, Kevin. You've won feature writer of the year. I like Kevin McKenna. I think he's a nice guy, but as far as I'm aware, he said absolutely fuck all about Palestine. So I don't know how you match that one up, bro. I don't know how you measure. I don't know how you measure that. Same with Neil Mackay. Davison himself made a point about it, about the fact that our journalistic class and our media class had basically been pretty much just acted like it doesn't fucking go on. So I'm not really down with that. But the point about what the X is, in a similar fashion to the salons of yesteryear, you know, the vibe would be very much that we recognise the political class are all the same, and that whatever we do has to oppose them. I don't care what colour the rosette is, unless you're flying a socialist flag, I'm not interested. Right, I have very much enjoyed blethering away to you this morning. Like I say, I've got a lot to get on with. I'm sure a lot of you do. I'm going to leave you with a brilliant track from an Edinburgh band. They're brilliant. They're probably one of my new favourite bands. We actually played a gig with them with Gutterblood last year, and they're absolutely brilliant. And this is I can't believe it. This is I was just remembering what the track is called. It's Mating Calls, and it's Cowboy Hunters. So have a great day, people, honestly, but stick around to watch this track because it's a belter, and they're definitely a bunch of cats to look out for. Young, angry, punk, enthusiastic vibes. This is what we want, right? Some old guy going, check out the young team. Brilliant though. Have a good weekend. Have a good day. Ciao.
You're not a peacock. You just have a tiny wee cock. You're not a baboon. Put your arse away. We don't have to live like animals, but some people insist. So go on, mate, make like a cannibal and eat my dick. You're not a peacock. You just have a tiny wee cock. You're not a baboon. You're just a cunt. You're not fucking what are they called? Those wee fucking stupid sticky things on the telly. You know one of those. You're not a dog, and I'm not your bitch. You're not a hedgehog, but you are a prick. We don't have to live like animals, but some people insist. So go on, mate, make like a cannibal and eat